What's up, everyone? Welcome into another episode of the Hoosier Huddle here on the All Sports All Play Network. It's gonna be just me for a little bit. We're gonna see if any of my cohorts show up. If not, it's just gonna be me tonight, and we can work with that. So that's completely fine. Um, so this Rams versus Seahawks game has been interesting to say the least. You've been keeping up with the game like I have. You saw the first quarter completely scoreless. It was actually very much of a defensive front. And as the game has progressed, those defenses have worn down. Now we have a 23-17 ball game with the Rams actually winning in Seattle. And in case anybody also hasn't been keeping up the ball game as well, unfortunately, Russell Wilson has actually been out since the third quarter. He was actually on a play. Aaron Donald came up, ended up smacking his finger against Aaron Donald's helmet, and now his right middle finger on his throwing hand has been injured. And ever since Geno Smith has actually been the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, actually let him down to a touchdown. Also, just let him down for a field goal now to keep him within 6 points. So, I mean, as far as Geno Smith being able to keep up for Russell Wilson, it's actually been extremely impressive. I will say, too, as far as the Rams now, as especially compared to how they first started off the first three games, that game against Arizona was interesting because we started to kind of see some kinks in that Rams offense. You started to see, Arizona be that team that kind of picks them apart. Now, a lot of times, people are going to credit that to, well, it's a divisional game. Arizona versus the Rams, almost always competitive. Same with really the entirety of the NFC West. And really, you could make that argument for just about every single divisional game in the NFL. Just about most of them are pretty competitive to start with. I will say, though, I think this has actually been a better defensive standing than what I originally anticipated. Historically, this year, Seattle's defense has been terrible. This has been the 32nd ranked defense in the entire NFL, even with Carlos Dunlap, the second being traded for the Bengals to them last year. You have Jamal Adams. You have Quandre Diggs that they picked up from the Lions. You have Sidney Jones. You have these, I'm not going to say elite corners and backs, but you have decent ones. And to pay the amount of money that you paid Jamal Adams in the offseason, basically for a guy that's a hybrid linebacker. I mean, if you look at how Jamal Adams plays, he doesn't really play great in coverage, doesn't really play great man to man. He is a phenomenal pass rusher. I think he gives you a very unique option as far as off the edge blitzing. But other than that, I don't really see him as a perennial safety, as he probably views himself and how a lot of people view him in the NFL as far as that goes. But I mean, now the Rams are actually doing what the Rams needed to do. They were able to go in, get some wins. Matt Stafford is hurt, unfortunately. His right ring finger, I believe, for him injured, so both finger injuries, but Matt's able to actually come into it. And I do have my partner in crime. I got Dre. Brother, how's it? Nope, never mind. I think he's got some technical difficulties still. We'll wait for Dre to pop back in here in a little bit. But I think there's 2 minutes, 22 seconds left. It's 23-17. Seahawks just spent their final timeout. It's now 3rd and 8 for the Rams. If the Rams don't convert, they punt. Maybe leaves the Seahawks with a little under 2 minutes with Geno Smith at the helm. If Russell Wilson doesn't actually try to fight to come back in for this. Like I said, Geno Smith hasn't been bad for him, though, for the fact that he's been Russell Wilson's backup for about the last 3 years now. He's actually done pretty well. There we go. Dre, brother, how's it going? Uh-oh, brother. I think, yep, you're still muted, buddy. I think Dre's still having some technical difficulties at the moment, so we'll give him a few minutes to hopefully get connected so we can hear him as much as he can hear us anyway. But yeah, I think unless the Seahawks pull off something pretty miraculous, this is going to be a pretty much a walk-off win for the Rams. Righty. Dre, how's that microphone going? Dang, it is still muting you, good sir. Let me see something here. There we go. Yeah, I still can't hear you, bro. Nothing. All righty. So the Seahawks were actually able to get a stop on the Rams. So with this punt, they're actually going to have a little over 2 minutes. Probably put them at about the 2 minute and 10-second mark that they're going to have as far as time wise. They'll still have the 2 minute warning, but the Seahawks are in a timeout. And this is going to be Geno Smith leading the final drive for the Seahawks as far as getting started goes. All righty, let me try something on my end, Dre, and see if it works. All righty, I think Dre's still working on some of the technical stuff. Maybe it's on my end, maybe it's on him. I don't know yet. But now we're into the final drive for the Seahawks to see if they can at least tie the game or even potentially win it. If they get a touchdown here, they can win it. And by the look, and Geno Smith just got picked off. So by the looks of it, that's going to be the ball game. Rams will probably do a running play, get past 2 minute warning. All they have to do is get one first down, and then the Rams pretty much seal the deal as far as a victory formation goes. Like I said, this has been one of those games. It's been interesting to see how each team defensively has started to take a stand up against each other, as compared to what I probably thought with a Seahawks defense that is bottom of the league, and then a Rams defense that still seems to be trying to figure its identity out, especially after the loss of Brandon Staley going to the Chargers. All righty, hopefully we can get Dre's microphone working. I think he has himself muted. Okay, he's still going to be working on that for a little bit. But yeah, I will say I think eventually teams have started to find kind of the kink in this Rams offense, especially as high powered and as high powered as it is. You have Cooper Kupp has still been fantastic, even with Matt Stafford not playing his 100% best tonight. You have, Van Jefferson's been playing solid. Robert Woods is playing solid. And surprisingly, for a lot of people, they expected this wide receiver core to probably be a little bit more selfish than what it has. And this is probably one of the more selfless groups in the NFL because you don't have Van Jefferson fighting for statistics, fighting for yards. You don't have the same thing with Robert Woods, and Cooper Kupp has just silently been doing what Cooper Kupp does. And it's obviously been very apparent as well. Deshaun Jackson is still a threat. Even at 34 years old, he's still a deep threat that can outrun everybody. He had a 68-yard completion for 68-yard pass completed to him on the run earlier in the game that kind of helped kickstarted the Rams offense. The other big thing that's actually been a little bit scary for and concerning for both teams has been the kicking game. Matt Gay for the Rams, not extremely accurate. Myers for the Seahawks also hasn't been extremely accurate tonight. So there's been a lot of question marks, not only there, but at the quarterback position. So, again, this is a game that I didn't really expect. I don't really want to say high scoring because, I mean, it's 23-17. This is something that I would consider 23-17 a kind of a moderately scoring game. I'm not going to say it's high scoring, but it's not low scoring either. But again, I expected actually to be higher scoring just because of the defenses. The Rams defense, I think, is ranked 27th right now in the league. which is a tremendous drop from being first. And I think a lot of that has to do with the coaching with Brandon Staley, having been that defensive coordinator and now the head coach of the Chargers. And then the Seattle Seahawks defense has progressively gotten worse as the years have gone on, especially since Legion of Boom is all gone. Richard Sherman's no longer there. Now he signed with Tampa Bay recently. You also, of course, had Cam Chancellor retire. You still have Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright. KJ Wright signed with the Raiders. And to me, KJ Wright just looks weird in a number 34. It just doesn't look right. I don't know how I feel about that one. But I will say, too, one thing I am impressed with Seattle's offensive line. That was one thing that Russ really complained about this offseason is the fact that Seattle's offensive line has been so bad for him for so many years, the fact that he would get sacked so many times. And, in less than an offseason, they've completely revamped this offensive line. Now, if you look at it statistically, Seattle's offensive line, 17th, 18th, 19th, I think, in each respective category. I think average, 18th, 19th. So just like lower end of the middle tier. But I mean, if you look at as far as actual movement of the ball, they're second in the NFL with about 5 yards per carry and 5 yards per move as far as passing and running goes. So, I mean, Seattle has definitely stepped up its actual offensive line game for Russ. Hopefully we got Dre this time. Why is it automatically muting? Let's see. There we go. You got nothing, brother. Nothing. Still a little bit of technical difficulties, but I think that's just kind of summarized. We got sound. There we go.
You got me now?
We sure do, brother. How's it going?
All right, there we go.
All righty, brother. How's it going for you tonight?
Oh, better than good, man.
Other than the technical difficulties.
Yeah, that's the wild stuff right there. Yeah.
That happens, though. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
So, Dre, what's been your impression on this game so far? Have you kept up on it so far?
I mean, the game tonight.
Mm-hmm.
My impression is, I got the tale of two cities of Matthew Stafford. At one point, he's forgetting he has an offensive line. At one point, he's forgetting he has weapons. He has a choice. He has a coach that believes in him. And I think that he's having a hard time of really understanding that in the middle of a game, he needs that David Carr treatment from 2 years ago that he was given. Same type of thing.
I'd agree. And it is kind of interesting because I don't know how much of Matt Stafford you watched in Detroit, but if you remember, Matt Stafford used to be extremely good in the fourth quarter. What was it? I think it was the 2016, 2017 year.
Yeah.
He was winning fourth quarter games every time you turn around.
I was a big fan of his coming out of UGA. I really was, but we all know what happened when you get a good quarterback with no offensive line. They barely can walk. And I'm glad he got out of that situation, though.
I am too. I think this is probably the happiest we've seen Matt. I think, and this is definitely one of the best starts Matt has ever had to his career, by far. It is unfortunate though that the injury bug has already started to get a hold of him here in Los Angeles, as it did in Detroit. I don't know if you've seen or not, but his right ring finger on his throwing hand has actually been taped up. And on the other side of this game for the Seahawks, I don't know if you saw, but Russell Wilson has been out since about the third quarter. With his right middle finger on his throwing hand. Now, I will say, what have you thought about Geno Smith so far? Because to me, so far, he's actually been a pretty solid backup for them.
I think Geno has been doing his homework in practice. Geno came on that field like, "Hey, coach, I've been waiting on this moment. Let me show you I can really do this." I mean, he came out like they didn't miss a beat to me, but the miscues early in the game on the offensive side as well as the defensive side with Seattle kind of put this game where it's at now.
Oh, yeah, definitely for sure. And I kind of feel bad for Geno because I feel like Geno is one of those, he had a rough entrance into the league because I don't know how much do you remember watching him in West Virginia when he back in 2012?
Yes.
He was actually pretty decent. I expected him to go higher. And then I think what happened was when he got drafted to the Jets, I mean, it's the
Everything
Jets.
downhill, then the getting punched in the face, all that, all that leads up to bit. Nobody really knew who this guy was. I mean, Gino's been a great football player, I believe, since the sixth or seventh grade. So you have that hype that's coming out of you. Have the prestige of what college or university you go to. Then you get to the NFL and people are sitting back, not eating their popcorn, but trying to figure out what are you going to do next. And unfortunately,
Hmm.
he went to the Jets, and after that, got kind of lost in the shuffle. But tonight, to me, he came out there like, "Hey, I got this. I know what
Definitely.
I'm doing."
And I think it helps because, you know, I don't know about you, but especially when I watch a lot of these college quarterbacks and I see what they're able to do in the college side, and then they come in the NFL, and then they get thrown into the wolves like a Jets organization, and you know, to me that's always been terrible because if you remember, just a couple years before Geno got drafted, look at Blaine Gabbert coming out of Mizzou, getting
Mm,
drafted by the Jags. That was a terrible thing to do to that man's career. And unfortunately, he's had to spend his career as a journeyman backup. I mean, he finally got a Super Bowl ring, so I mean,
right.
he in the end he ends up being the winner. But but I feel kind of the same way for Geno Smith. He's one of those. I think he was a solid quarterback. He got thrown into a bad situation with the whole Ben McAdoo breaking Eli Manning's Iron Man streak, even though that wasn't really his fault. That was a
Right.
coaching problem. Goes to the Chargers, backs them up, and has been with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks ever since. And I kind of agree with you. I think he is in one of the best situations that he could possibly be, being in Seattle and being able to back up Russell Wilson. And
Right. He's with a coach that believes in the college football quarterback, for one. He's with a guy like that. He's with an organization that pretty much lets you be you.
mhm,
They're not watching you no more as they used to do about 10 years ago. So if he
yes,
stays in his system and all that, then we're going to see what happens with Russell Wilson's finger as well as Matthew Stafford's finger. But the backup quarterback and the kicker in the NFL are things everybody's going to be talking about.
for sure. Now this is going to be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm looking at a team like Washington that come next year, well, especially at the end of the season, is probably going to be looking for a quarterback of the future, depending on where they land in the draft. If Geno's available, if you're Ron Rivera, do you go for Geno Smith or do you still go for somebody like Cam Newton or do you get another free agent quarterback that might be out there?
See, I think a few people brought up the Cam Newton, Ron Rivera reunion, but something happened in Carolina between those two. I don't know if it was good or bad. I don't know if it was a Mike Tyson type boxing trainer incident. Did somebody get inappropriate with their words and behavior? Did we go too far? I know we got a job to do. We're trying to win games for the organization and for the fan base. And I'm trying to keep my job. But if them two get back together, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I still think something happened that Adam Schefter doesn't even know about.
I think, and you can tell me if I'm being paranoid or crazy or not, but I mean, obviously, we know that the media only gets so much whenever it comes to what's going on in a team. Only the coaches and players know what goes on in that locker room. Do you think that potentially Ron Rivera saw early on when Cam first got that shoulder injury? He said, "Okay, I'm healthy, I can come back." Kind of saw the degression of Cam's game, and it kind of just continued on all the way until they both got kicked out of Carolina. Do you think that Ron Rivera saw that early on and said, "You know what? I'm not gonna badmouth Cam if he can still do it, cool. But at least me as the coach with what we got right now, I can't do it with
See with Cam Newton in the quarterback position and the receiver position, those are high profile positions. Everybody wants to be macho man. Everybody wants to be the pack of the group. No one wants to appear weak or vulnerable. So he didn't want
him."
to let nobody anything was going on with that shoulder. I mean, Cam
Right.
got into a very serious car wreck in downtown Charlotte on the way to practice or leaving practice one day. Don't
Hmm.
know how severe the injury really was, but he was still involved in a car wreck, and the car, I believe, was sideways, upside down.
Hmm.
Don't know. Guys like that, they try to fight through it. They don't want to use that as an excuse. They use it as a crutch or a clutch, so to speak, to catapult into the
Right.
next phase. I'm gonna use that as my stepping stone is look, this could have went this way, but instead I went this way with it.
Right.
But you try to hold on, there's only so much the arm can do, as we've been taught and learned from Drew Brees and Brett Favre.
Very true. And even Peyton in that year that they won the Super Bowl, you saw Peyton Manning's arm. That arm turned to a noodle arm.
Right.
What, less like
arm
8 games in the season.
Arm strength and arm talent are two different things.
Exactly.
Different things.
But kind of leading back into the question, though, if you're a quarterback needy team like Washington, do you go out and do you sign Geno at least as a bridge quarterback if say you don't get a high draft pick or you have a rookie quarterback that you don't want to throw to the Wolves yet? And do you start
I have
Geno?
an offensive line that can protect the rookie quarterback and they understand what we're doing as an organization, as a team, yeah, I'm going to take that chance. But if I don't have the offensive line to protect that investment, I'm going veteran somewhere. I'm going to get somebody with some leadership capabilities that can help me. Maybe I get a quarterback in the 3rd or 4th round. We can slowly progress this young man along. Because not all first-round draft pick quarterbacks live up to our dreams and capabilities. Not all first childs and first kids live up to the hype. Sometimes that 3rd or 4th kid is the one that saves the family and recognizes what the family name means.
That's true. I mean, one of the best examples is the guy we saw play tonight, Russell Wilson. He's a 3rd-round draft pick in 2012, and I mean, you could argue out of that 2012 draft class, he's been the best quarterback out of it.
What's that? I heard an unusual stat the other day. It's either, I think it's the Arizona Cardinals or the Buffalo. That's the Buffalo Bills. They have maybe 1 or 2 first-round draft picks on that team. So that whole team is out to prove what I deserve to be picked higher. They have they talk about athletes playing with a chip on their shoulder. That whole organization is. I think there's only like 1 or 2 people that are first-round draft picks that are on that team now.
Yeah. Even Stephon Diggs, I think he was 5th round?
Yeah.
Yeah, 5th round. I think Josh Allen was he's a first rounder for sure. Yeah, I think
so the first round talk is not it's good in certain situations and certain teams and organizations know how to handle that. But coaches out here with a new job, new coaching staff, GM probably first time being hands-on with the team, you got to be real careful when you're trying to get a high pick first round quarterback and you don't have any understanding what that offensive line can do.
I agree, and I honestly I think we're seeing a lot of that in the dumpster fire that is the New York Jets. Because I mean, you look at Zach Wilson, which I don't know about you, I wasn't really sold on Zach Wilson
right
when he first got drafted, and mainly because I like to look at it in the fact of who did he really play while he was in college. He went to BYU. The one ranked team that he played, I think it was Coastal Carolina. He lost.
Coastal Carolina.
Which, I mean, as of right now, I think they've been in the top 15 of the college AP polls now for like the last 3 weeks.
Right.
But I mean,
if he keeps his helmet on, I can really judge him as a real quarterback in the NFL because he looks so young when he takes his helmet off. He looks so young, like he should not be outside without a parent.
Without a legal guardian.
Right.
I mean, I can't say much. I got a baby face myself, and I'm 26 years old, so I can't say much. But yeah, I think that's kind of the bad part. And to me, I think that's one of the bad things. If I'm a coach, if I'm Robert Saleh, I wouldn't have taken that Jets job, to be honest with you. I mean, that offensive line needs a lot of help. Yes, they tried to rebuild a little bit in the draft, but that offensive line is still garbage. I think even if Zach Wilson does have the potential, you're putting him in a bad situation. Who does he really have to throw to? I mean, you have Corey Davis, which isn't bad. I think Mims is one of their wide receivers, if I remember right.
Yeah, you're right.
And then don't you have a kid from USC? I think he wears number 8 for the Jets. He's a rookie, and I don't think he's got a chance to play yet. But still, you're putting him, you're giving him such a bad foundation to go off of, and not even, and with a defense that I would say is underperformed, especially since losing Greg Williams. Even as crazy as Greg Williams is, Craig Williams gave that defense, he's one of those coordinators. He brings out the best in his players.
He's old school.
I've noticed he's very old school. I honestly, as crazy as it sounds, I thought he actually should have got the head coaching job over Freddie Kitchen for the Cleveland Browns.
See, that's the thing. That's why I think that coaches, players, fans get caught up in the hype, just thinking that this person should go and get that job. They're just going because it's open. Do you really want it? Are you really qualified? Like, I got a crazy scenario I think that's going to happen with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You think they're going to go to
Ed Orgeron is going to lose his job at LSU due to the sexual scandal there. Urban Meyer is going to leave Jacksonville, go back to television. Byron Leftwich is going to be the coach of the Jags. And Eric Public Bieniemy is going to USC.
Okay. Well, here's my question to you, though. If say you're Byron Leftwich, yes, you have an opportunity to be a head coach, but do you leave the good spot that you're in Tampa Bay and go to the first coaching job that's available, or do you kind of play the long game and you wait for a better position? Like, if you look at how Kevin Stefanski, I don't think Kevin Stefanski necessarily meant to. I just think he happened to land in one of the better scenarios as far as a rookie head coaching position. Even the same with Cliff Kingsbury, in Arizona. But you look at Joe Judge. Joe Judge has built up the Giants. I think that's one of those better positions. But, if I'm Byron Leftwich and, if the Jags need a head coach and say, who else is probably another team that's going to be searching for a head coach?
Is it ideal for you? When you're saying the ideal situation for Byron Leftwich, does Byron really want to leave Tampa Bay? Everybody thinks when coaches are with a winning organization, it's their best job and intention to stay there as long as you can. Stay there. You got it so good. But what if Byron wants to get out of that? I've done all of I can do on the NFL level.
Mm-hmm.
If I do not get a head coaching job, here's what I'm prepared to do. Some guys want to be a head coach, and some are fine in their position that they're in. Some don't want to move up or move down. They're fine.
Yeah.
They're comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's some guys we wish would get a push or want to take that initiative to be coaches, but I think some in the long run are just pretty happy and satisfied where they're at. I would love to see Byron Leftwich and Eric Public Bieniemy get a head coaching job. Deion go to Florida State. Things of that nature. But is it really going to happen? Is it the ideal situation for them, or is it for us or the fan base or the institution or the organization?
If it's me, if I'm Byron Leftwich, I would say it's not the ideal situation to go to Jacksonville. If he just wants to be a head coach, yes. But to me, because I would want him to be a head coach and be a long-term sustained head coach, I don't think Jacksonville's that place, because look at how quick the NFL is about. They want quick turnaround. Look at how Cleveland was for years. Like, we didn't win. You got 2 years to rebuild this team. You didn't do it. You're out. I don't want that same thing to happen to Byron and end up with like a head coaching record of 6-21.
But in a perfect world, Byron can end up in a situation if Jacksonville does decide to move to England, to London. They're going to change the colors. They're going to change the team name. And here we are. We can rebrand the team with the face of Byron Leftwich. You can look at it that way. We're rebranding the team in London.
True.
So I'm looking at it because that's the next possibility for the NFL and London shaking hands is the Jacksonville Jaguars and Shad Khan. Sure. That is the next move for them. That's why that game is there this week. That's why they've played them. They've played what now? 16 games in London since they've been in existence.
It's a long time.
That's a long time. And the NFL has been trying to get into bed no pun intended, with London, and London is trying to sleep with the NFL.
Yeah, and I think honestly a
Better
little bit
sense
of
would
it.
it be to rebrand yourself, and you got Byron Leftwich, and he has a college history.
Mm-hmm.
He has a football resume.
Mm-hmm.
His sports resume itself speaks measures for it. So that could be another way if he's
Yeah.
looking at that down the line. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, I don't see another name that can come in there if Urban really screws this up and ends up being axed even before the season is over with.
And I'll be honest with you. I would even say too, even though it is Jacksonville as far as the poor roster talent, I will say I'll agree with you as far as situation, as far as support system. I think Byron would probably be in one of the best support systems he would have. He would have an owner that is completely willing to support him and however long it takes, just as long as he is successful. I mean, look at how long. Who was it? Gus Bradley was the coach before he finally got fired by the Jags. So I mean,
They were just trying to figure things out. I mean, some coaches, I think, they just have a job because this the best we got. Some people are dating somebody right now. This I'm just gonna hold on to win over with. I'm gonna hold on. But
they
you up
finally
out of
got
here once March get here.
they got somebody to help keep the bed warm. They're like, yeah, you'll do for now until I find something better, or I hopefully find somebody better anyway. So yeah, I agree. I've seen a lot of people. I've seen a lot of rumors say Urban might go to USC, which honestly I could see that. That kind of fits. I think that fits Urban's personality. That kind of fits his, I would say, lifestyle, especially with him having been on TV the last couple of years beforehand in Los Angeles.
The student
With
body is there for him. You can get away with a whole lot more things in college than you can in the NFL. The money is
the money,
ridiculous. The
the
perks.
control, the control.
Yeah, you're literally big man on campus again. And when
Hmm.
you leave college and you've done so much as far as the accolades are concerned, then you go to the NFL. We know the money is a huge disparity. We know the disciplinary factor is totally different. These are grown men on grown men. They make 10 times the amount of money you do. It's a
Hmm.
different world than dealing with the boosters and the student body in college. They have your ups and
Well,
downs, and it's if you're the alpha male, you either look at me. I think you ought to stay in college.
mhm.
You ought to stay.
Yeah. Well, not only that, I think it's hard. I think it's been hard for Urban to adjust having to go from, because I mean, realistically, these are grown men that he's talking to, but for him, they're still college students. So now he comes into the NFL. You have somebody like Marvin Jones, 33 years old. Urban says, "Hey, this is what we're going to do." Nah, I know you're the coach, but I'm a grown man. I've been playing this game longer than you have. This is not how we
All,
doing this.
all of the years I've been watching Hard Knocks,
Hmm.
you can hear the conversations in all of them since the very first one to the last one.
Hmm.
Some of these athletes talk like they're in eighth grade.
Yep.
There may be 3% that are really on that level.
Right.
I got to really talk to him like man to man. The rest, I don't know. The
You don't think so?
communication factor, but you lose one, you lose the whole locker room in that sense of the nature. But when it
Well,
all boils down to it, if you lose an NFL locker room, it's over with. You can talk to the Miami Football Dolphins about that. You can talk to the New York Football Jets about that. And you most for sure can talk about the Houston Texans about that. When the coaches lose the locker room, like it got so bad in Houston, they did not want to return for the second half. True story, playing the Indianapolis Colts. They did not want to turn
oh
for
yeah.
the second half. It was that bad, that
Hmm.
bad. So you got to keep the locker room. I'm not saying kiss their ass or nothing like that, but there's a mutual respect. I'm trying to do a job, and you trying to do your job at work.
Hmm.
So here we go.
Well, and I think the other thing too that I don't know necessarily if college coaches do it. Like Nick Saban, I know doesn't do it because to Nick Saban, everybody's a cupcake schedule. Um, but for Urban Meyer, like I said, I always thought that his first thing with Tim Tebow was just kind of a media thing to get attraction down there to Jacksonville. I think he started to mismanage that. And then this whole like, oh yeah, in the NFL, it's like playing Alabama every week. Yeah, my guy, you're playing professional football. You don't get the cupcake schools. You don't get like Tulane twice a
Right.
year to beat up on. You are the Tulane. You're the team that gets beat up on twice a year, and you're the head coach. You gotta overcome that. So
See, his
I
exit strategy to me, leaving the Ohio State University. his exit strategy in every coaching job he has had has always been raise an eyebrow somewhere. What are the hidden intentions here? What did he
Yep.
mean by that? He's like, you got to have your decoder ring out every time he's talking. Every time he's talking, you got to have that decoder ring out. And the Tim Tebow thing, that's beyond a former player, former coach relationship. They're much deeper than that. They were trying to help each other out. I think he brought Tebow down there to motivate the guys. But Tim Tebow's distraction is a little different than what most people either do know or don't know when it comes to that. And then the way he handled the whole preseason, his body language, and the antics about comparing NFL schedules to playing Alabama every weekend, out of bounds on that every day. Out of bounds.
Yeah.
But hopefully he settles down as a Florida Gator fan and a guy who first heard of Urban Meyer. He was with Utah. I was intrigued about what he was bringing for as an offensive mindset in recruiting and intelligence to the game. But then the darker side of that, there's always that bad point, and that's in everybody that's successful. In sports, out of sports, there's a dark side of why they're that good. And then when we find out, we want to bring out the microscope and say, wait a minute, that's wrong. He shouldn't be doing that. But then you look at what the progressions were. Now nobody wants to bring that up. Now we just want to look at the dark side of the person.
Right. Yeah. It's sad because, I didn't see much at Utah. I do remember seeing him at Florida. Then he came to Ohio State. I remember watching a lot of those Ohio State games. Then that whole scandal with
he handled it horribly.
I'd agree, and I don't want to make it seem like I'm almost defending him, but to me, even if I'm the head coach, that's another grown man. That's another man's house. I can't come into your house and tell you how to do things. Even if you're my boss or vice versa, I'm not going to come in your house. Hey, this is how you do things. Now, if I know about it, if it spills out onto my field, if it spills out into the locker room, okay, then it's a me problem because now you're affecting the workspace. But personally at home, I don't know what you want me to do. I can't fire you for what you do at home. But
that's the thing in sports now. They care about what you do at home now. Thank you, social media. Thank you, loudmouths. Thank you, retweeters. Thank you, people filming shit you shouldn't be filming. They want to be involved in your personal life now. So what you do off the field is just more important. What you do on the field, on the court, on the pitch, on the ice, all of that matters now. All of it.
It does. And obviously we're seeing that, especially with Urban Meyer's most recent bar hopping adventure.
But that was his own place, though. That was his bar.
Was it really?
That was his bar. That was his bar he was at. So is this a publicity stunt and nobody's paying attention? Is this a Chicago shuffle going on? We look this way, but we know something else going on over here?
More than likely. Or honestly,
I don't think the USC coaching job, I don't think he's going to go to LSU after they fire Ed Ogeron. But one of those two coaching jobs are going to be really, really interesting who gets those two coaching jobs that are about to open up, that being USC as a permanent place and LSU when they get rid of Ed Ogeron. I think they may do it as soon as the season ends. No matter what LSU do, I think he's up out of there.
Honestly, to me, being an LSU fan, I would love to see Urban Meyer go there, but you got to play Alabama every year, and you got to play in the SEC, and the SEC is its own mini NFL. So,
and Bayou Bengals or something else.
That's very true. That's very true. But I always love to see my Bayou Bengals succeed. Growing up in Indiana, I don't know why we had a ton of Alabama fans in Indiana. I couldn't stand it. I was like, no, I can't do this whole roll tide thing. We got to go purple and gold. I can't do this. Can't do it. But let's move kind of back in the NFL though, especially we got about 10 minutes left in the show. Out of the week 5 games that we have coming up on this weekend, what are 3 that you're most excited to see, Dre?
3 games this weekend that I am looking forward to seeing. For one, my Broncos.
Okay.
We got to figure this out. There's no way possible in the NFL They're quarterbacks that can't move the ball. Again, arm strength and arm talent are two different people, two different entities across the board. They're not the same at all. And when people understand that, I think then you can understand your team moving forward, the real expectations of them and what they bring into the table, what they're not going to bring to the table. But the bottom line, if they can't win, I have an issue with my team. So they got to do something big time. Another game I'm looking at for defensive wise is the Dolphins and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's something about the Dolphins when they play teams like Tampa Bay, the Rams, the Ravens, the 49ers. They play an unusual type of game. Something happens about that defense or the special teams come out of the way. And after what happened last week with Tampa Bay, we need to see a little bit more clicking with them on the receiving core. A lot of hit and misses for sure. And this may sound crazy to you, but this Eagles and Panthers game.
Oh, no, I definitely agree with that one.
The Panthers are on watch. They don't know. Because the whole league realized 65% of their game plan was around the running back, McCaffrey. Everybody realized that. So now they're trying to figure out what we're going to do.
Yep.
Keep it simple. Stop going out of character. Stop trying to do things that the 95, 97, and 98 Carolina Panther team did. You are this year's 2021 team. Stay in the control of the game. Don't do things you cannot do. And this could be a big game for Carolina as well as Jalen Hurts because he needs to win.
He does.
He needs to win because Philly is tough on fans, but when they're away from home, they seem to relax. So maybe Jalen can settle down just a little bit and stop rushing the play and the pitter-patter feet. And I think that'd be fine. Those are my three games right there I'm looking forward to.
Now, I do have a quick question for you because Teddy is out with a concussion. Do you trade Drew Lock to the Chicago Bears for Nick Foles to at least be a bridge quarterback until Teddy comes back?
Give me Nick Foles any day. The guy's a proven winner. Drew Lock got to go.
I agree.
Arm strength, but not arm talent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He's still living off a hype of something that happened in high school. Hasn't done anything in the NFL to remain in the NFL. Not to me.
I'd agree with that. My three games that I'm going to look forward to, I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be biased in this first one. I'm looking forward to Dallas versus the Giants, mainly because if we look at last year, even when, it was, a 1-4 Dallas team versus a pretty bad Giants team at the same time, it was still close. And Daniel Jones has been playing phenomenally the last couple games. I mean, I really can't fault him. He's only had one turnover in the last 3 games as compared to
them division games are scary.
Exactly. And I'm one of those, whenever it's a divisional game, I never count that as just an easy win, especially in the NFC East. Even doesn't matter how terrible the NFC East is, they will still beat up on each other for a whole hour. So that one I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to the Chargers versus the Browns, because if you look at, the Browns built themselves in the offseason to be able to compete with the Chiefs. And if you look at that first game, how they played the Chiefs, and to me, they played fantastic. As far as man-to-man coverage goes, the Chiefs had nothing that they could go off of defensively and offensively.
Like Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. And I mean, you look at the Chargers, and the Chargers have built themselves to be able to compete with the Chiefs. Justin Herbert's this young, good quarterback that has been doing fantastic. Literally every game that he plays in, he seems to do extremely well. Their running game is solid. They probably have one of the best group of receivers that you could get, and they have a very good, talented, good defense. And Brandon Staley as a head coach, I think, has been so far a success. Now, long term, that'll be another thing to say. But it'll be interesting to see if these two teams are able to cancel each other out, or if we're going to see if one team truly is better than the other one. And the other game that I'm actually looking forward to see is the Colts versus the Ravens. And I mainly say that because to me, this is going to be Lamar Jackson's first real test of this season. And I say that because even though Indianapolis is 1-3, that is still a good young defense that has been able to hold up with the best of them. And we saw before Wentz went out of the game against the Rams, they were the closest team to give the Rams any type of a scare as far as a loss goes in those first 3 games. They were able to march it up and down all over the Rams. So it'll be interesting to see if Lamar is able to overcome that on that defense. And it'll be interesting to see if Indianapolis is able to take advantage of the Ravens' injuries on the defensive side of the ball, and if they're able to capitalize on that or not.
But that's not how Democrats see it.
So those competitive matchups with that each of these teams have had, a huge thing in that Browns Chiefs game that bothered me. They had that game, but clock management. So everybody think you have to outscore the opponent to win the game. You do. But there are other things going on in that game you got to be in control of and aware of as well. Talk to anybody that's lost to Tom Brady in the fourth quarter. You got to be aware of the clock. Understand.
Anybody that's lost to Aaron Rodgers.
What's that?
Anybody that's lost to Aaron Rodgers. Look at the 49ers.
Yeah. You have to be aware. That time of possession is key to me. There's certain teams that really have that down pat as we get into November and December that really know how to control the ball. And not a lot of people, they think they got to just hurry up and score.
Nope.
If you control the clock, you can control the game. You can control the game flow as well. The tempo, offensively, defensively, and special teams. And now you're in the head of the opposing team. Now they're moving out of character, moving real fast.
Yep.
You're getting a case of the yips. But that time of possession is key in matchups with those teams being in a game where they should have won the game and they won, and what happened.
Yeah. And if you remember, what was one of the best ways to beat Peyton Manning and Tom Brady? Both still probably one of the best ways to beat Tom Brady. Like you said, time of possession. Keep them off the field. The longer and the more you keep those men off the field, the higher chances of winning you have against them, because you can't put the ball in their hands, they can't win.
There it is.
As much as I hate to be a Booker McFarland with that and just give the simplest answer that you gotta score the most points and keep the ball in the other person's hand. Unfortunately, that really is true. Just gotta keep the ball out of their hands and keep going.
There it is.
Alrighty, y'all. Well, this has been another episode of the Hoosier Huddle. In case y'all didn't realize it, the Rams won 26-17. The Rams are now 4-1. And it'll be interesting to see if the Cardinals are able to win their game this weekend. More likely they should. Do you happen to know who the Cardinals face this weekend, Dre?
The Arizona Cardinals?
I think they face the Niners, don't they?
Let me double check. Yep, they play the 49ers.
Okay.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see if the Cardinals are able to come out with a win this weekend and be 5-0, or are they going to be, technically tied in first place with the Rams, but the Cardinals hold that tiebreaker, so they're going to be holding on to first place for a while, regardless if they win or lose. They're going to be holding on to it for another week.
Here's a footnote on Kyler Murray. The last game that they played and won when they beat the Rams, his pregame outfit was his high school Letterman jacket where he went undefeated.
Wow.
That was his pregame outfit. So that was a subliminal message to his teammates, how they're taking this approach. We know what he said in the press conference. Hey, it was just a regular season game. We're not thinking nothing other than that. Bull.
Yeah.
We find out after teams win. When did the winning mentality message start? They always say it either started in camp or a pivotal point in the season. I guarantee this comes up into play on what he wore to the game when they beat the Rams.
I believe it. And another fun statistical note to add on to that, there has not been a team that has started out undefeated that has won the Super Bowl since 2006. And the last
Thank
team
you,
to do that,
Eli Manning.
Actually, yeah. Well, actually, it was the Colts. Peyton Manning
Eli ruined it.
He did ruin it. That's right.
Season.
That's right. Yeah, the Colts were the last team to do it, and they did it the year before. They went 9-0, ended up going to the Super Bowl, beat the Bears. And then, of course, Eli Manning ruined the Patriots the very next year being able to do that, which I am happy. He stopped Tom Brady from at least getting 2 more rings. And then, of course, we got Daddy Nick Foles over there stopping him from getting one. Alrighty, y'all. It's been another episode of Hoosier Huddle with my man Dre. Dre, hope y'all have a good night. And we will see you next week. We will see you next week. I think we're supposed to have a really good matchup next week as far as the Thursday night game. I can't remember it off the top of my head. If I remember right, it's the Chiefs. No, it's not the Chiefs.
Oh, we got the Bucks and the Eagles.
Okay.
Next Thursday on the 14th, Buccaneers and Eagles.
That's going to be easy dub for the Bucks then. I can already tell you all that.
It's going to be a good one right there.
It is. Well, y'all, we will see you next Thursday for the Bucks versus the Eagles. And y'all have a good night.
We'll see you.